When you announced your candidacy for the presidency, every story included the same thing: Pentagon Papers, Pentagon Papers. Is that what you think will be the first thing they'll mention in your obituary?
I would think so, but then again, there's a few things I'm working on right now, and I think I've got 10 good years left on these tires, and maybe there's a few other things I'll be doing. No, what I hope they'll mention in my obituary is the fact that I want to empower the people to make laws. The answer is not with representative government. That can't change. What can be, and the solution to all the problems we're talking about is the people, not the leaders in representative government.
You say that as somebody who served in the Senate for 2 terms?
It doesn't work. If that's not self-evident, Leonard, I don't know what else will be.
You tell a story in the book about how you and Alan Cranston went to a Senate doctor to get colostomy bags so you wouldn't have to leave the Senate floor. That was during a projected filibuster. Right.
Well, it was a little bit of an ego trip. I wanted to beat Strom Thurmond's record of the number of hours. And, of course, in the old days, with Huey Long and others, what they would do is they just flat would pee on the floor of the Senate because you've got to drink a lot of water while you're debating. And so, obviously, I was going to not do something as
vulgar and disgusting.
That's right, as that. But then again, some of these guys were pretty crusty.
Joe, are you as cynical about the role of the legislative branch of government these days?
Oh, yes. How could you not be? I think it's clear.
Do you think that they have ceded that power, or did they never really have? The Constitution gives them equal power.
Yes, they had more power at the beginning. They were supposed to than the presidency, and that's one of the themes of the book is the rise of the presidential power, and it's linked very much to the armaments industry and the growth of American territory. I think what we need to see, and we probably won't, is a period, the one that Mike went into, a very rare period, I think, when 1973, when the militarists who had taken over, we argue, at the end of the Second World War, were defeated in the jungles of Vietnam. And that opened up a period of national self-examination. And in the Senate, we had the Church Committee, and we had the House Assassination Committee, and they looked under the rocks and saw what the CIA had done, the new CIA that Truman had created. What had they done with what had the U.S. done with the power it was left with at the end of the Second World War? Did it use it to promote human progress at home and abroad, or simply to multiply that wealth and power? And I think that came to an end in 1980 when Reagan came back. It was a restoration of the militarists. Mike and other Democrats were kicked out. Republicans took back the Senate, and we're still living under that cloud today. They started with a small invasion of Grenada here and a Panama probe there, and led all the way up 23 years later to the full-scale Vietnam-sized invasion of Iraq. And we need a period again where the Senate will become predominant in the government and examine what's been happening since 1980.
Well, I remember speaking not so long ago to somebody who'd written a book about the growth of presidential power, and it seems that every president, I guess since FDR, has taken on more of that power, and nobody, it would seem to me, who became president would be willing to give any of it back. And isn't that part of the problem as well? There's, once it is given to the president or to the executive, it's going to stay there, and then the next one is going to try to get a little more.
It goes further back than that.
I mean, if you had become president, could you have said, I'm going to just give it all back to the House and the Senate?
No, you can't do that. You're still within the context of representative government. What you want to give back is, and the people never had it, you want to bring the people into the operation of government as an additional check to our system of checks and balances, which fail. The structure fails. And that's where the only answer is to bring the people in. And I have
How do you bring the people in?
I have another book about that. That's called Citizen Power. And people can get it, www.citizen-power.us. And it's simple. Switzerland's the example. There's only one country in the world that has this. We have 24...
But they wouldn't let women vote for years.
I don't say that we change human nature. I'm just saying we bring the people in. I don't have any magic wand to change human nature, but I'll tell you that the people are smarter than their leaders. And it's not individually. It's the majority of the constituency that makes the decision. We have 24 states in this country where people make laws at the state and local level. And we have 100 years of experience, and studies show overwhelmingly that those states are better governed than the states that do not.
But we also hear that one of the big problems in California is that Proposition 13 remains on the books, and that has pretty much made it impossible for education to be improved in the state. I mean,
not so, Leonard. Prop 13 was a butcher's hand because the liberal legislature would not tend to the rise in property values that impacted the elderly in their homes with higher taxes. And so this was the cornucopia for politicians, and they would not, with 10 years of appeals from people being hurt. And so Garn and Jarvis stepped forward. They had no legislative experience and produced a piece of legislation that was not properly crafted, and that set in motion this whole tax area. And people now reacted to that because they know the representative government's not spending their tax dollars wisely.
So you've proposed a national initiative to bring direct democracy to the people?
To bring the people into the operation of government as lawmakers. Here, let's take the words of Cicero. Cicero said to define freedom as participation in power, okay? What is power in a democracy? It is lawmaking. So if the people are really going to participate in power in this country, they have to become lawmakers, but not the way you have it in the 24 states. Making laws is a deliberative process. And so I've spent 10 years crafting this legislation called the National Initiative, and the process to enact it circumvents the entire government. The government will never empower the people. The people have to empower themselves, and we have a process to do that.
My guests are Mike Gravel and Joe Lauria, and they have written a book called Political Odyssey, The Rise of American Militarism and One Man's Fight to Stop It, published by Seven Stories Press. This is WNYC, WNYC.org. I'm Leonard Lopate. How are the people going to get back this power? I doubt that anybody who already has power is going to give up any of theirs.
Oh, you're so right, Leonard. Of course they're not. The Congress is never going to enact this. The people can enact it.
How can we enact it?
Well, the people are sovereign. The people are sovereign. Here, all of our founding fathers said overwhelmingly that every generation should have the right to make laws.
But these are people who don't go out to vote under normal circumstances.
Maybe they're the smart ones. You vote for a Republican one time, nothing happens. You vote for a Democrat, nothing happens. You go back and forth. I might as well stay home and worry about my kids, worry about my job, because here, you're going to vote for Obama this year. You think he's going to bring about change?
You don't know I'm going to vote for Obama.
Huh? Hey, Obama's going to get elected. I hope he gets elected because I think McCain is a nutcase. But I'll tell you, he'll get elected. He's not going to bring about change. He can't bring about change. All you got to do is follow the money. This is going to be the first billion-dollar presidential election. Follow the money, and if you think there's going to be change, don't hold your breath.
You have anything to add to that, Joe, or should we move on?
No, I think we can move on.
I was wondering, were you covering his presidential campaign from the start?
No, I did one piece for the Boston Globe because I've been a correspondent for them for about 7 years at the UN, where they shut down their foreign desk, which is a whole other show you could have on the decimation of foreign reporting in the United States.
We've already discussed
You've done
that
it already, okay.
any number of times, and we'll continue to because it continues to be a major issue in this country.
Indeed. No, I met Mike, and I went on my own dime to travel around and do a piece which appeared in The Progressive, and then he suggested this book. And and you asked about my independence here. Well, I was very sensitive, and I am about that. So I went back to the archives, his Senate papers. I listened to the oral argument, 4 hours of it in his Supreme Court case. I read all the court papers. I went to Alaska for a week, and Mike didn't remember a lot of things correctly from the past, frankly. He says he's learned things about himself that you never knew, interviewed his family members. And I wanted to do his objective cases. And with his name on the book, I know that may not appear to be possible, but I think I've done a credible job, and Mike needs a lot of credit for being a politician, a very rare one, a political oddity rather than a political odyssey maybe, to allow that kind of scrutiny.